Hello everyone, welcome to the LionSide Chat. We will be starting at 4 p.m. Please go ahead and make sure that you have your audio device working and you can hear us appropriately. We will get started right at 4. If you're just joining us, please come on in and make sure you can hear us so your audio is working properly. We'll be starting our LionSide Chat today right at 4 o'clock. All right, everyone, welcome to Penn State Berks LionSide Chats. My name is Dawn Pfeiffer Wrights, and I'm working alongside our 3 other LionSide Chat moderators, Sonia Delacueto and Ryan Hassler. Come on in and welcome to our campus. We're so glad that you can join us today. Before we get started, we wanted to share that you should please feel free to submit any questions you have through the Q&A feature of our Zoom webinar here, but we will not be utilizing our raise hand feature. Once our presentation concludes, we'll facilitate a discussion with our presenter, and we'll also be recording today's session so you can revisit the topic or even share this experience with friends or family or other students. Now, we're excited to introduce our presenter, Ms. Aubrey Edwards, and she will be speaking on, oh my gosh, I just lost your topic, Aubrey. Student success and being successful in college. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Ms. Edwards is an academic advisor at Penn State Berks, and she is a really dynamic presenter, and I'm really looking forward to getting started and hearing what she has to say. Are you all ready to go, Aubrey?
I'm all set.
All right, then I'll allow you to share your screen.
Okay, thank you so much, Dawn. I appreciate the exciting introduction. Okay, so as Dawn mentioned, I am an academic advisor at Penn State Berks, and I am fortunate enough in my position to be able to work with a lot of students and getting to be a part of their journey and exploration in the higher ed setting. I help students figure out what they might want to major in or minor in, of course, schedule classes and help share a bunch of other opportunities that they should take advantage of during their college years. So as Dawn said, I will be talking about self-awareness, academic skills, and college success today. And understand that this is not covering everything that you need to be successful or every single skill that's out there. I'm only going to be able to cover so many topics in the amount of time that we have today. But I'm, of course, more than happy to meet with you one-on-one when you're at Penn State Berks and talk about anything that you'd like to discuss further. I always like to start off with a quote, and so I've chosen self-awareness gives you the capacity to learn from your mistakes as well as your successes. It enables you to keep growing. Felt that that was very fitting for our discussion today. So I'm going to talk about first is self-awareness. And simply put, what is it? Awareness is being aware or of knowledge of oneself. When we're talking about self-awareness, description is pretty much in the words itself. So things that affect your self-awareness are going to be your needs, your skills, your interests, your values, and of course, your hopes and dreams and your goals. So thinking about it, who knows you better than yourself? Generally, we would hope that one would know oneself the best. However, some of you may have parents who might know you or think they know you a little bit better than you know yourself. So some things to think about regarding self-awareness. To yourself, think about, can you answer these questions? Do you know what your strengths and weaknesses are? Do you know what your interests and your passions are? Know what your values are and what your goals and dreams are? And if you can't answer all of these questions right now, that's okay. We're going to have some tips to help you gain a little bit more self-awareness. Many times we live day to day pretty fast, and we don't take the time to really think about these things on that type of level. It's just kind of face value and move on. So many people are not as aware as you would think you might be in regards to yourself. So some tips on how to gain self-awareness. One could be kind of study yourself. So think about what comes easy to you and what might be a little bit more difficult. And when we're talking about these, I don't want you to just think in the means of academics, like, well, I'm good in English, but I struggle in math. Also think on more the social, emotional side of things, such as, you know, is it easier for you to make friends or making new friends and kind of, you know, being outgoing and putting yourself out there, something that's a little harder for you to do? Is it hard for you to ask questions, or is it easy for you to raise your hand and participate? What do you like to do and what don't you like to do? That one is probably a little easier to know and be aware of. You know, what are your daily habits? What do you do every day? What is important to you? Thinking about your values.
Aubrey, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but I think you might have frozen. Aubrey?
Want to talk to someone who
I think we might be a little frozen here. Aubrey? Hi.
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes. Are you good?
Yep.
You keep freezing for me. I don't know if the rest of you are getting the freezing, Aubrey, or if it's just me here.
Yes, I'm getting the freezing too, Dawn.
Okay, thank you.
As am I.
All right, let me see. Aubrey, can we go ahead and maybe can you continue without the slideshow? I'm gonna, oops. Oh, wanna try again? Okay.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, and I
Okay.
can see you and you're not frozen, so pick back up where you left off. Thank you. Uh-oh.
She also might want to audio in on her phone. That might work better.
Yeah. All right, Aubrey, can you, let's see. I'm gonna see about putting this in the chat.
Sorry if you're watching. We just have a couple of technical difficulties. Hopefully we'll get it fixed real quickly.
Aubrey, can you hear me? Can you dial into the thing on your phone? And maybe send me your PowerPoint link and then I can try to.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
All right. Thank you all for your patience today. We're going to shoot through these technical issues and then we'll hopefully pick right back up where we left off. Connor, if you're there, maybe you can hop in the chat and give Aubrey some guidance. All right, I'm seeing you now live, so maybe we want
I think she's logging in on her audio right now.
Well, so I was going to log in via phone just to be safe.
to. Okay.
Oh, what's the meeting ID? Oh, never mind, it's doing it.
Okay, good.
I've never called in on a Zoom before.
This is a
Okay, never mind. It says I need a participant ID.
All right, hold on one second. Let me grab that. Just a second. I am looking for that right now.
Is it just the webinar ID?
Do you have that, Ryan?
Probably.
It's 924
Oh, good.
Mm-hmm.
764
Mm-hmm.
576
Mm-hmm.
24.
Thank you all. We're just experiencing a few technical difficulties. We're going to get those taken care of and then pick back up where we left off.
Okay, so I can hear on my phone.
All right.
So what I'll do is I guess I'll just continue sharing, and if I get backed up again, at least you'll be able to hear me.
All right, we'll
Yep.
see if that works. Perfect.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, everyone. So let me see. I'll go back to my one before. Okay, so it's not letting me go to my next screen, so I'm just going to stick with this one. So how to gain self-awareness. As I was saying, unfortunately, before, I have some technical difficulties here. One way that you can gain self-awareness, of course, is by studying yourself. So thinking about things that might be easier for you or what might seem more difficult. And when we're talking about these things, I don't want you to just think in an academic standpoint from, you know, I'm smarter, you know, or better at math and English is a little harder for me. Also think of it in a social and emotional field. So for example, is it harder for you to kind of go out and make friends, or is it easy for you to make friends? Is it hard for you to, you know, ask questions, or is that something that's easier and doesn't make you feel uncomfortable? Think about what you like to do and what you don't like to do. That one should probably be an easy one. Most of us know what we do and don't like to do. Think about what your daily habits are and what's important to you. And what does success look like to you? Success doesn't look the same to every individual. So make sure that when you're creating goals and working towards that success, that you're focusing on you and what you think that is, not maybe what success looks like to someone else, or maybe, you know, what you see on TV. Something besides studying yourself is then you can also talk to those closest to you. You know, family, friends, people that you trust, that know you very well, but of course are also going to be honest with you. Some other options that we have are there some actual assessments or inventories that you can take that are going to help you maybe paint a better picture. We, you know, have ones through Penn State that you'd be able to take. We have the MBTI, which is the Myers-Briggs. So basically it helps you understand more of your personality type. And then you can relate that to specific majors and with whichever type you are. We also have the LASI, which is the Learning and Study Strategies Inventory, which is specific to academic skills. And again, these are all self-assessments, so making sure that you're answering questions honestly are going to be really key for you to, again, get results that are realistic and will actually help you understand better. During this process, it's really important that you're honest and non-judgmental. Sometimes it's easy for us to kind of be hard on ourselves and think, well, I'm not really good at any subjects, or, you know, I'm not really good at that. And sometimes people are the opposite and they think that they're wonderful at everything. So just making sure that you're being realistic and not too hard on yourself when you're really having some introspection into, you know, understanding yourself and being much more self-aware.
It advanced for us.
Okay, it didn't for me. Hold on a second. Okay, thank you. So talked a little bit about self-awareness. So now we're going to bridge that into relating to academic skills. So thinking about grade school, obviously you were able to learn and grow a skill set that helped you succeed. Depending on who's watching today, most of you probably have graduated high school and are working towards college. So, you know, congrats. Success feels good, right? It's really nice when you work hard and you put time and effort, and then you're rewarded, you know, depending on whatever it is, you know, a high school diploma, you know, celebrations, things like that. And it really makes it much easier to continue those good habits, to continue to succeed when you have positive outcomes like that. So thinking about grade school, each grade required you to learn new skills and of course strengthen the ones that you already had. Each grade, you know, expected you to work at a little higher level, and so you would not be able to, you know, stay at, let's say, a first grade reading level if you're in third or fourth grade, etc. So thinking about those transitions from each grade in grade school and comparing that to transitioning to college. The jump to college is big and different than just from one grade to the next. I'm not just speaking on academic differences, but also, again, the social and emotional differences. You're not just moving up one grade, you're having a completely new experience that is not going to be as similar to high school as middle school was to high school. So as you can see here on the left, it kind of just, you know, a visual to show looking at going from one, you know, grade level to the next, and things again are becoming harder for you, but of course you should be meeting those expectations because you are able to do so. So another way to think of it might be, you know, a computer or video game or even game on your phone. A lot of times games might have a beginner, and intermediate, and pro. Most people are probably going to start at beginner if it's their first time trying the game, and then once they feel that they've mastered that, they'll move up to the next level and the next. You know, you can think about it in, you know, a sports aspect or performing arts, music, you know, what you were able to do at a certain age and what you're able to do now most likely is much higher. We would never expect someone to go from junior varsity in high school to, you know, a major sport. Or, you know, playing an instrument in junior high and then all of a sudden being in a major orchestra. You have to work your way up. It's not giant leaps. It's all these little steps that eventually get you to where you want and are able to be. So a couple skills that I'm going to talk about today will be note-taking, time management, study habits and testing, communication, problem solving, and goal setting. And again, by no means are these all of the skills. And also, if you look at these, most of these aren't just academic, and you'll be able to forget about them once you graduate. Many of these are going to be super important for you within your career and even throughout your everyday life. So thinking about note-taking, how did you take notes in high school? You know, what's your style of note-taking? I know many first-year students be like, I didn't really need to take too many notes. So this might be something new for you. Different ways that you can take notes. Some people are more visual learners, so they like mind mapping. Some people prefer, you know, the old school outline with a Roman numeral 1 and then ABC. I know personally that's what I prefer. I'm a very type A, so I like things organized like that. Or there's also the Cornell style of note taking. So whichever works for you, it doesn't matter. One's not necessarily better than the other, but knowing what works and is going to help you understand the material better and get it down on paper so you can review it later. So a couple tips in college regarding note taking. You want to make sure that you review any materials before you have class. I know this is probably different than in high school. Most times you go to class, you learn, and then you have, you know, a homework assignment or review the information afterwards. If there's any type of textbook or you know, any type of articles or any readings that are on the topic, you're going to want to review those before you go to class, because that's going to allow you to first get a little bit of information ahead of time to know what they're talking about, but also if there's anything that you're completely not understanding, doesn't make sense to you, then that's kind of a flag, like, okay, when they're talking about this in class, I need to pay attention, or I need to ask questions if it doesn't make sense when the professor's explaining it. You want to make sure that you engage and stay focused. In college, there is a lot of lecture. It's not all lecture. A lot of faculty are really good at changing things up and being much more interactive, but there are times when lecture is necessary. So when that's happening, you want to make sure you're not kind of, snoozing in the back of the classroom or behind the Zoom window, and that you're engaged. So making sure that you're engaged, you can be taking notes. You have to physically be awake and understanding what they're saying in order to write things down. Ask questions if you're not sure. If you think you have an answer, answer questions. The more engaging you can be, the more you're going to learn from that experience and the more you're going to get out of it. Also, you should make sure that you review your notes after class. Don't wait until a day before the exam to start looking at them. If you're reviewing them, every week, notes from every single class, you're not going to have to spend as much time studying once that test comes around because you're going to be pretty familiar with the material. If there is a textbook or even long articles that the course is going to require, refrain from highlighting. They say basically you should be highlighting 10% or less, or else it's not really helpful. I've definitely seen some textbooks myself that had, at least 50% highlighted. And something even better than highlighting is taking notes from the text that you're reading and putting it in your own words. If you're unable to put what you're learning in your own words, generally that means that you don't really understand or grasp the concepts, which means more research and asking questions and other things are going to have to go into that. So looking at time management, again, think about how was your time management in high school? Were you someone who waited till the last minute to write that paper, or just studied an hour before the exam? Were you someone who was super busy that was really involved in different activities and you only had a certain amount of time to get your work done, so that's what you did because you had no free time to not? Time management is, I would say, the biggest issue that I see first-year students having, because they're used to how time management worked in high school and it's very different at the college level, and a lot of times it ends up hurting them in the long run. So knowing if time management was something you were really good at in high school means that you might not have as many struggles. If time management was something where, your teachers were reminding you when you had homework and you had exams, your parents were also reminding you to get things done. College is going to be a little bit different. It's much more on your own. You're much more responsible. People aren't going to be necessarily reminding you of these things all the time. So if that was something that you experienced in high school, that might be an indicator, hey, time management is something I know I'm going to need to adjust my habits and thinking to make this work. Generally, they say you should spend 2 to 3 hours outside of class for every hour in class. So students who go to school full-time generally will schedule 15 credits a semester. And when we talk credits, think about that means 15 hours in class a week. So if you're doing 15 hours in class, and let's say double that, that's 30, that's 45 hours right there related to academics. That's a full-time job. That's a lot of time. Now, I'll be honest, not every week or every subject or class are you going to need to spend that specific amount of time. Generally, early on in the semester, you might not have to spend as much time, but then there's going to be weeks where you pretty much don't have any free time and all you're working on is coursework. It all depends. So that's why making sure you're really good at organizing and prioritizing your time is absolutely key. You're going to need to utilize something to help you stay on track because you're not having the same courses every single day at the same times. So it's easy to forget about something, especially maybe if you have a class just once a week for a 3-hour time period. So whether you utilize, a calendar, virtual, or, an actual calendar in your room, or a planner, you will be getting a free planner from Penn State. So I always, use that. It's free. It's nice. It has Penn State specific stuff, or some type of planner that you have on, on your phone. Whatever it is, use what you're going to use and use it. There are so many students that say, oh, well, I have a planner. I'm like, okay, well, do you use it? And they say sometimes. I say, well, sometimes it's not helpful. You need to use it all the time. Bring it with you during class. You can make any updates for any assignments, any exams, any note, things like that. and then take it home with you and review it every day. So you can look out and see, okay, I don't have much homework this week and next week, but the third week I have 2 exams, a paper, and a group project. I better start working now on those things because I'm not going to have enough time to do all those if I wait. Make sure that you hold yourself accountable. So if you, block off specific time, like I have this assignment, I need to get it done, and something more fun comes along, friends are going to the movies or out to eat or who knows what, as tempting as that may be to do instead and think, I can do this work later, unfortunately what usually happens is later never comes. And then all of a sudden that assignment or that exam, whatever it might be, is due, and you might be frivolously trying to cram in whatever you need to get done. And of course, it's not going to be your best work. Another tip is just don't overdo it. Your first semester, the biggest transition is just the difference from high school to college. So we definitely support that you get involved and do more than just, in classroom experiences, but don't overextend yourself and feel that you need to do everything. Everyone has different responsibilities at home. Some people work part-time or full-time, so make sure that you don't overextend yourself and do what's going to work best for you. Some students can handle 18, 19 credits a semester, others do much better at 12. So again, back to self-awareness, knowing what you can handle and sticking to that and not trying to exceed that. Talking about study habits, how did you study in high school? And another frequent thing is a lot of students coming in saying, I didn't really have to study too much, reviewed my notes the night before or right before the exam, and I did fine, still get A's or B's. It's going to be very, very different in college. Those type of habits and study skills are unfortunately not going to cut it at the college level. Studying is about quality over quantity. Many students think, oh, I spent this amount of hours studying, I should be good to go. It's not necessarily the time that you put in. However, obviously you definitely need to put time in, but it's more about the quality of the studying that you're doing. So some things to be self-aware and to know about yourself. What type of environment works best for you? Are you the type of person who likes to listen to music and you don't mind if people are around you doing things? Or are you the type of person that needs to be in a quiet, secluded area, phone away, everything away, so that you don't have any type of distractions in order to focus? And then of course, whichever you are, make sure that you're in that type of environment when you're studying and getting any type of work done. Thinking about how long should I study for? When do I need to start? Going back to note taking, if you're reviewing your notes and information from every class from once you get it throughout the semester, you're studying then. You might not think of it as studying, but you're reviewing everything. So by the time that test comes around, you're not going to need to spend all this extra hours reviewing it because it's pretty, much ingrained in your mind. The more that you review things, the more your brain puts it from short-term memory into long-term memory. Studies say that you shouldn't study longer than an hour at a time. Now, of course, everyone is different, so take that of course into account, but they suggest 50 hours of study, 10 minutes of break maximum, and then you can do that intermittently depending on how much time you have and what you feel you need. And studying is more than just rereading notes and your textbooks. Definitely have had students that said, I reread the textbook 5 times and I reread my notes 10 times. I spent 5 hours. I should do well on this exam. And then they get it back and it did not go so well. And if you're just rereading and not really understanding the information, that's what's happening. You can read and not understand things. So in ways to check yourself to make sure that you really are comprehending and understanding the information, you can quiz yourself. You can make a quiz on your own. Some textbooks and programs have, built-in, check for understanding quizzes. Another one would be working with others. A lot of times students will have study groups and, they can kind of quiz one another. But then also if one, student understands a little better than the other, a specific topic, then they can teach you or you can teach them. And really teaching someone the information is the best way to check that you understand it, because you wouldn't be able to teach it to someone if you yourself didn't understand it. Again, putting things in your own terms and vocabulary.
Aubrey, I think we might have lost you. I'm going to go ahead and allow yourself. Can you, Aubrey, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yep, I have your cell phone dialed in, so I'd lost your video. But if you want to continue to talk without your PowerPoint, that's fine.
Okay, I'll just keep talking. It'll probably come back.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. So again, preparation is key. So as I said, if you are, sorry, I just popped back up.
That's fine. Why don't you go ahead and why don't you, yeah, there you go, and put your PowerPoint back up. That might work.
Okay, can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So sorry for all these issues. I don't know if I'm just having technical difficulties with my internet at the worst time or what, but okay. So preparation is key. You want to make sure that, again, we already went over study habits, preparing, note-taking, all of that. So that, of course, is the first key to doing well. The next is make sure that you're getting enough sleep. I know many students are like, no, I'm just going to stay up all night and study because
Aubrey, I'm sorry. I have to interrupt you one more time. Can you
That's okay.
hold your phone a little closer to your mouth? I'm not quite hearing you.
And maybe put your audio on your computer on mute.
So you want it to be muted?
Your audio on your computer because we're getting the feedback through your phone.
Yeah, I do have it on mute.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
but
I can hear you perfectly
now.
right now.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So you want to make sure that you're getting enough sleep. Studies show that if you get 8 hours of sleep, that you're more likely to do better on an exam than if you stayed up all night and studied. Another thing is, of course, eating healthy. So they talk about brain food. That is a real thing. There are different foods that are going to be better for you than others. So having a good routine and getting enough sleep and eating are going to be healthy across the board, but especially when you're going to have an exam. So one thing that I know that's pretty common for students is going to be feeling anxious or stressed out, test anxiety. And that's something that there are things that you can do to help to try to reduce that. Besides, you did all the preparation, you did everything you should. So now you just need to kind of teach yourself how to relax. So some examples for relaxation techniques, there are physical ones. There's muscle ones where you actually tense and untense your muscles, and it helps you relax, not just physically, but mentally. There's also breathing techniques where you breathe in and out for 5 seconds for a certain amount of time. And then also a guided imagery, which is more mental, where you're kind of imagining, a very calm place and getting yourself to there that way. And these are things you can do physically sitting in your seat in a classroom. No one else would know you were doing that. Just take a minute or two to do so to help kind of clear your mind and then focus on the test that you just prepared for. So a couple of tips with test taking. Past that point, make sure you complete what you know first. Tests are going to be timed to, some extent, so you want to make sure you're answering everything you know first and then come back around to ones that are giving you a little more hard and difficult time. Always go with your gut instinct. Study shows that when you second guess yourself, you're more likely to choose the wrong answer the second time around and erase the first right answer. Make sure you pay attention to wording. So if anything says never or always, that's kind of an indicator that rarely happens, or if there's a double negative, just make sure that you're reading the question correctly, because many times students after the fact will be like, oh, I knew that answer, I just read the question wrong. And of course, last but not least, give it a guess. It's better than nothing. Most exams are not like the SATs where you actually lose points for putting the wrong answer. A guess is better than nothing, even if it's fill in the blank or an essay. Just put in what you know that has anything related to it, and maybe hope that you get, you know, a couple points for it. Okay. Did it go to the next one?
It's, nope, still on study habits and testing tips. Yep.
Okay, there we go. So communication and problem solving. And as I mentioned before, a lot of these tips are not specific just to academics. And, you know, while you're in college, these are two that are super important that employers are looking for in their candidates, you know, for whatever position they're posting. So I personally am not a communication faculty member. Dawn is, so she could go way more into detail than I can. But just a couple things. So I'm sure you've all heard, you know, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And it's absolutely key. So it's not just the message, it's how you're portraying that message. So in general, but also specifically in college, you want to make sure that you're direct, that whatever you're thinking, feeling, need to ask questions, that you're being direct and not kind of beating around the bush. Especially when we talk about, you know, group work. A lot of times students cringe at group work, and a lot of it is because they're not communicating as best they could in that group, that some things end up not happening, and some students may end up doing more work than the others. Professionalism is key, and this includes verbal and written communication. And I know that many faculty members cringe when they get emails from students that look like text messages. I've had emails from students where it says, hey, no name, and then, you know, ask a question, and then they don't even sign their name, so I have no idea who they are. So I can't even look up the information and begin to respond to that student. So please remember that there is a place for texting, and then there's a place for research papers and professional emails. Then problem solving, this is something that, you know, you're not going to specifically take a course that's called problem solving. This is something you're going to be learning somewhat in class, but then also just from your college experience. So making sure first, if there's a problem, you can define it, coming up with potential ideas on how to fix what that problem is. Evaluate all of those ideas and figure out what you think the best solution is going to be, and then of course implement and evaluate it throughout your college time. And since before that, I'm sure you've had problems and issues, and you've had to come up with a way to problem solve and fix or work through that problem. And again, these are things that employers are super interested in making sure that that's what their workers are able to do, because again, this is way past college. This is, you know, career and life. Okay, and last but not least is going to be goal setting. It's been shown that people that create legitimate goals are much more likely to reach those goals than those who might have like a vague goal. So one model that we like to use is the SMART model, and then SMART is short for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. So making sure when you come up with some type of goal, whether it's academic or non-academic, that it's specific, and there's a way to measure it and say, yes, I have been successful or I haven't. Attainable, meaning that it's within your reach, but you don't want it to be too easy, because that's not really a goal. It needs to be relevant, so something that makes sense, that you want, whether, again, it's academic or something outside, something that's important or should be important for you. And again, time-bound is focusing on that there's a specific amount of time that you have, and you should have it completed by then. And not everyone is going to, you know, follow this to a T and be successful. Sometimes you got to change things around a little bit, you know, and that's okay, as long as you don't give up and keep working and adapt and adjust. That's the most important thing. Okay, so I know I mentioned before, success looks different to everyone. And that's going to be important when, of course, you're working towards your goals. So is success making a lot of money? Is it having a really strong family and friend network? Is it, buying a big house, owning your own home? Is it getting straight A's or, certain grades on your exams or classes? Is it, getting first place or winning the trophy for, a sport or any type of thing like that? Is it just, making a positive difference in other people's lives? Is it landing that dream job or maybe being a businessman or woman? Is it volunteering your time and doing community service to help others? Or is it just as simple as being happy? So a couple college success tips that I came up with. So college is a fresh start. It doesn't matter if you were the head of the class, the last one in the class, popular, you were good at sports. It doesn't matter what you were in high school. This is a fresh start for you, where you can decide to change what you need to and continue doing what you are good at, and start working towards being the best version of yourself. Get out of your comfort zone. Okay, this is where you learn and grow the most. If you just stick what you're comfortable with, you're not experiencing so much more that's out there. So making sure that you're trying new things that maybe you wouldn't have in high school or you wouldn't have thought of before. And that leads into getting involved, whether you're getting involved in clubs or sports or doing community service or working on campus. Make sure that you get involved in your experience in college, not just inside the classroom, but outside as well. And that leads into making connections. You're going to make a lot of new friends, and a lot of them hopefully are going to have a lot of the same likes and interests as you, and that's going to be really helpful because really you are who you spend time with. So you want to be around people who have, again, similar interests and also have goals and visions for themselves, because you can help one another along the way. You also want to make connections to faculty and staff members, so not just other students. I promise we're not scary, and we're here to help you. I've definitely written many recommendation letters for students I was close with for either grad school or a job or internship. And if you don't make those connections or take the time to do that, you're not going to have anyone potentially to be able to do that for you. And of course, you want to have fun. College, absolutely, school comes first, but there's so much else that you need to experience and enjoy and have fun while you're doing that. You absolutely get back what you put in. If you put in the bare minimum, expect to get the bare minimum experience. But if you're willing to go the extra mile and put more effort, again, whether it's on the academics as well as social, you're going to get more out of it. Know that you're not alone. Many students think they're the only ones who don't know what they want to major in or have no idea what they're doing, don't know how to take care of time management, don't know how to do ... I promise you're not the first, you're not going to be the last. And looking at utilizing campus resources, again, we are here to help you. That's why we have jobs. We're here literally to help you. So please reach out, whether you're having struggles in class and you need to go to the Learning Center for tutoring, or you have no idea what you want to major in and feel lost, come to advising. We are all here to help you. You're going to make mistakes along the way, and that's okay. Don't be too hard on yourself. As long as you learn from your mistakes and are willing again to put the work in to make sure it doesn't happen again, that's all that matters. Anyone here who's, a senior in high school moving up to college this year, it's also not the normal transition from high school to college. There's so much more going on in our world right now that's affecting you. So please, don't be too hard on yourself. Give yourself a little slack. And then I'd like to end with a quote. Success is no accident. It is hard work, perseverance, learning, studying, sacrifice, and most of all, love what you are doing. As I mentioned before, the students who are most successful in college are not necessarily the most intelligent, the one with the highest IQ, or the most popular, they're the ones who put in the work and who struggled but worked through it, persevered, and, didn't let failure be the end. They knew what they wanted and they worked towards it, and they made it happen. Your path might not be easy, but it's yours, and you're the one who's in charge of it. So that is all I have for today. So any questions? And sorry about all of the tech issues.
No problems at all, Aubrey. I certainly appreciate you, exercising some patience and grace through this process with us. It's not easy sometimes. I think now, yep, Sonia's on with us, and Sonia's going to facilitate our Q&A. So Sonia, are you able to get us started here?
I am ready. If that's not persistence, I don't know what is. And I'd like to congratulate our audience for sticking with us, and also want to invite you to ask some questions at this time. But Aubrey, I'm going to get started. I was sitting here thinking, you had mentioned in your presentation that students should expect to spend 2 to 3 hours outside of class for every hour that they're in class. And more often than not, we have some students who find themselves in the position that they need to work and go to school at the same time. So could you tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are on working while students are attending college?
Absolutely, that's a great question. So being realistic, we know that some students need to work to help pay their way through college, and absolutely, I did the same thing myself, so I get it. I would never say to a student, you cannot work. But again, being realistic about what you can handle is going to be key. Generally, for a first-year student, we would suggest for their first semester to not work more than 10 to 15 hours a week. And if they feel that they can, handle that amount of time on top of all the academic requirements, and they could do a couple more hours, the following semester, absolutely. But again, knowing what you can handle, and that's again where time management comes in. If you are then adding another 15 hours of your work on top of the 45 that you're already doing for school, then you're at 60 hours. And then that's a lot of time. And again, you want to make sure that, number one, you're sleeping. So time for sleeping and time for fun and, non-stressful activities as well, because you need a happy medium. So again, it goes to that self-awareness. What do you think you can handle?
Great. Thank you so much, Aubrey. Another follow-up question. You had mentioned in part of your presentation about textbooks, and we all know textbooks are expensive, okay? So when students find themselves in that position that they have to buy a lot of textbooks, what kind of advice can you share with them? Is it worth the cost? Is it not? What are your thoughts on that?
Sure, absolutely. So generally professors will share what books they're using. It might be available on the bookstore website based on the course you're enrolled in, or on their syllabus. It should also be listed. And some books are required and some are recommended. Required generally means you need this in order to be successful in the class. Recommended is more like a supplemental type of text, meaning it's going to be helpful, but you don't absolutely need it. Generally, we suggest students wait until they attend class at least once to double check to make sure that the book will absolutely be used, because exactly the last thing you want to do is spend hundreds of dollars on expensive textbooks and then not need the book. There are ways to save money. You can rent instead of purchase. Depending if you know anyone that's in your class, there's a possibility of sharing. Some things are on course reserves in the library, but I know that's going to be a little bit more difficult with the COVID restrictions and regulations this fall. But there's definitely ways to bring the cost down and to kind of shop smart, I guess, if you'd say, with textbooks. Again, depending on what courses you're taking, things might look a little different. Like for many math classes, you would have to purchase a My Math Lab access, online access. So that's something you would have to do. If you do not purchase that, there's no way you would be able to pass the class. Whereas maybe there's another class that has a textbook, but they're really only using one chapter out of it. Maybe you and a friend could go in, halvesies, or you could borrow it, to take care of that.
Great. Thank you so much, Aubrey.
I actually have a question, Aubrey. You were talking a little bit earlier about, self-awareness and finding your passions and that kind of thing. What if I am just really unsure about what I'm passionate about? What are your recommendations to help me with that?
Good, absolutely. So, and definitely, like, I think of myself as 18-year-old, if someone asked me what I was passionate about, I don't think anyone did, but I probably would have looked at them with big eyes and been like, I don't know. I like hanging out with my friends. So absolutely. Depending on what type of experiences and things you've been involved in high school, you may or may not know what your interests and passions are. So a way that you can kind of learn more about what those might be are, again, to try new things. Whether that is getting involved in activities or volunteering your time. I've definitely worked with students who participated. I've participated before at Penn State with our alternative spring break program, where we go abroad and do some type of community service. And I've had students who participated in that, and they're like, okay, now I know what I want to major in. Now I know what I'm passionate about. Like, I always liked this, but this is really opening my eyes. So really, in order for you to find your passions, you're going to have to do some exploration. And absolutely, we're here to help you along the way, but understand you're the one that has to do the hard work to find that.
Sure, and absolutely. I think that really kind of centralizes or taps into that theme of responsibility, right? And taking ownership of your experience now that you're transitioning from high school to college. So that's perfect. Now I know, Aubrey, that you, if I understand it correctly, you are an instructor of our first year seminar class here at Penn State Berks.
Mm-hmm.
If you could share one solid piece of advice with students who are incoming and enrolled in that first year seminar class, like, how can they make the most of that class this upcoming fall semester?
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm definitely biased because I teach it. I think it's super important. Honestly, for students, I think it's a course that could make a huge difference if they put the effort and take advantage of it. As I mentioned before, you're only going to get out what you put in. So the first year seminar, it's, I'll speak specifically on mine. I can't speak to everyone else's, of course. But, I focus on self-awareness and learning about yourself and, again, strengths and weaknesses and what you need to be successful, and just being realistic in how different colleges from high school. And I've had students who loved my class and, gave it B's ratings and enjoyed it and found it super beneficial. And I've definitely had other students that said, this was a waste of my time. I don't need this. I already knew all that stuff. And I promise you, some of you definitely are going to have stronger academic skill sets than others. That's normal. That's going to happen. But if you come into college thinking you already know everything and that you don't need to learn anything to help yourself, you're really coming at it from a disadvantaged mindset. And I would absolutely ask you to change that mindset around. And again, even if we're talking about something you think you know, open up your ears and your mind to it, and I promise that you'll learn something new.
Great advice. Thank you so much, Aubrey.
Aubrey, I love that. And I have another question for you, kind of in the same vein. I'm assuming that many of our audience members today are going to be new students with us in the fall. And I think it's really important for us to sort of identify for them what you might think is the hardest part about college for these new students. And, I know you were a student at one point yourself and you advise students all the time. So from your experience, what is the hardest part?
Sure, absolutely. So I think the hardest part for students going to college is that transition, because they are used to how high school is. You've been, in high school for 3 years, depending on when your high school was, 9th or 10th grade. But so you've grown into and gotten used to the habits and how things were. And now all of a sudden you come to college and we're asking you to completely change around how you study, how you, learn in class, even social interactions. Everything is different. So I think the hardest thing for students is that transition and realizing that they kind of need to relearn everything that they kind of were already used to in high school to then to this next level to be successful. And time management absolutely is the big one that specifically comes to my mind, because if you don't get on top of it, it's so easy to let your assignments and responsibilities get away from you, and then at some point it might be too late, and there's no coming back. Again, generally students don't succeed not because they're not smart enough or they're not capable. It's because they're not aware or doing what they need to do in order to make sure that they are successful.
Yeah, I really and that I think that means so much. So my last question is, let's assume that we have put our plans in place and we've tried to be successful, but for whatever reason we don't achieve our goals. How do you manage that? And what do I do next if I don't do that? If I don't achieve my goals?
Absolutely, and definitely, as I mentioned before, when you do achieve them, you feel really good and you have this positive reinforcement, like, yes, I worked hard and I was successful, I want to keep doing that. And absolutely, it's easy if the opposite happens and you feel like you worked hard and made these goals and you weren't able to achieve them, to kind of feel bad about yourself and discouraged and like, well, what's the point? It didn't help me the first time. So what I would suggest is, kind of review what your goals were. And again, going back, the goals that you created for yourself, was it something you really cared about and were passionate about? Or was it something that your best friend thought was important, or your parents thought were important, or whomever thought was important? But to you, deep down inside, you knew you really didn't care. There's a lot of students that go to college because they feel like they have to, but their heart isn't necessarily in it. And, that's okay. College isn't for everyone, but there's also times when it might not be right or might be more right for someone. So kind of going back to reviewing what you care about, why you care about it, and what you need to do to get there. And again, ask for help. There are so many people that are here to support you, and not just us on the academic side, but family and friends. Utilize those support systems to help you along your journey. And again, there's no such thing as failure if you keep working through it. Again, even if your goal has to change, as long as you get to where you need to be, that's the most important thing.
And that's a great place for us to end here today, making sure to take all of this in and asking for help from your academic folks that are here to support you, your faculty, your family and friends. I think that's great. So thank you to Aubrey Edwards for presenting this amazing stuff on success in college, self-awareness, and just really being successful. And really thank you, Aubrey, for pushing through the technical difficulties today. You were the model of resilience for us in our LionSide Chat today. I want to give a shout out to Connor, our tech tutor, who actually had to earn his paycheck today with us. So we appreciate that, Connor. We're glad you were able to stop by. And a special thank you to all of you for joining us for today's LionSide Chat. As you click out of the webinar, you'll receive access to a survey. We ask that you please take a few minutes to complete the survey and let us know what you thought about our chat today, and perhaps offer us some ideas for future chats. You're encouraged to reach out to us through email, and just as a reminder, please keep checking our websites for all of our archive sessions and for everything up and coming. We do have some new sessions coming up in August that we've just put on the calendar, a couple on our COVID series, a couple of some productivity and digital wellness, and we also are going to have a couple of sessions for our incoming class and our returning Berks students to help them be productive in the fall semester. So that's our LionSide Chat for today. Please be sure to come back soon and meet with other faculty, staff, and students from Penn State Berks as they all share their experiences. Stay safe, Berks and beyond. Signing off until next time, this has been Penn State Berks LionSide Chats.